Donald Trump is no stranger to trade wars. In his first term, he slapped tariffs on goods from China, igniting a tit-for-tat battle that rattled global markets. Now, in his second term, Trump has reignited those trade tensions. He imposed new tariffs on goods from Canada and Mexico, two of America's closest trading partners. Trump argues these tariffs are necessary to protect American jobs and businesses. He claims other countries have been taking advantage of the United States for too long. He wants fairer trade deals. He believes these tariffs will force Canada, Mexico, and China to the negotiating table. The tariffs target a wide range of goods. Everything from steel and aluminum to cars and agricultural products are now more expensive. This has led to higher prices for consumers and businesses alike. The tariffs have also disrupted supply chains, creating uncertainty and anxiety in the global economy. While the tariffs on Canada and Mexico have been temporarily paused, the situation remains fluid. The trade war with China continues, with no end in sight. This leaves American businesses and consumers in a state of limbo, uncertain about the future. The impact of Trump's tariffs is already being felt across the American economy. Consumers are facing higher prices for a wide range of everyday goods. A trip to the grocery store is now more expensive, with tariffs on everything from avocados to beer and whiskey. The price of a new car has also increased. Tariffs on steel and aluminum have made it more expensive to produce vehicles in the United States. This cost is being passed on to consumers in the form of higher sticker prices. The housing market is also feeling the pinch. Tariffs on Canadian lumber have driven up the cost of building materials, making it more expensive to build new homes. These price increases are hitting American families hard, particularly those who are already struggling to make ends meet. The tariffs are acting like a regressive tax, disproportionately impacting lower-income households. They are eroding the purchasing power of the average American, making it harder to afford basic necessities. While the Trump administration argues that the tariffs are necessary to protect American jobs, many economists disagree. They argue that the tariffs are actually hurting the economy, leading to job losses and slower economic growth. The tariffs are creating uncertainty and disrupting global trade, which is bad news for everyone. Despite campaigning on a promise to lower living costs for Americans, Trump's second term has taken a different turn. Instead of focusing on the economic anxieties that propelled him to victory, his administration has shifted its attention to immigration and cultural issues. Immigration has taken center stage, with Trump pushing for stricter border control measures and mass deportations. He has demonized immigrants, portraying them as a threat to American jobs and security. This hardline stance has been met with fierce opposition from Democrats and immigrant rights groups, but it plays well with his base. Alongside immigration, Trump has also prioritized a cultural agenda, targeting issues like education and identity politics. He has sought to dismantle diversity, equity, and inclusion programs, arguing that they promote reverse discrimination. His administration has also sought to influence the national curriculum, pushing for a more patriotic and less critical view of American history. This focus on immigration and cultural issues has left many Americans feeling bewildered and betrayed. They voted for Trump based on his economic promises, but those promises seem to have fallen by the wayside. The president's attention appears to be elsewhere, fixated on issues that resonate with his base, but do little to address the everyday concerns of most Americans. The American economy has been on a roller coaster ride in recent years. After a period of steady growth, the COVID-19 pandemic triggered a sharp recession. Inflation soared to record highs, driven by supply chain disruptions, increased energy costs, and government spending. This economic turmoil cast a long shadow over the 2024 presidential election. Voters were anxious about rising prices, stagnant wages, and the overall state of the economy. This economic anxiety played a significant role in Trump's re-election victory. Trump campaigned on a platform of economic populism, promising to bring back jobs, reduce inflation, and put more money in the pockets of working-class Americans. He blamed the economic woes on the policies of the previous administration, promising to undo their mistakes. While many economists argued that Trump's proposed solutions were simplistic and unrealistic, they resonated with voters who were desperate for change. They were willing to overlook his past transgressions and embrace his promises of economic restoration. Ultimately, the economy proved to be the deciding factor in the election, propelling Trump to a second term. Section 5. The Art of the Deal, Trump-style executive orders and deregulation. Upon re-entering the Oval Office, Trump wasted no time in putting his stamp on American policy. Bypassing the legislative process, he issued a flurry of executive orders aimed at dismantling the legacy of his predecessor and enacting his own agenda. One of his primary targets was environmental regulation. Trump rolled back numerous environmental protections, arguing that they were burdensome to businesses and hindered economic growth. He championed the fossil fuel industry, opening up federal lands and waters to drilling and exploration. Trump also targeted the healthcare system, seeking to dismantle the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare. While he was unable to fully repeal the law, his administration chipped away at its provisions, making it more difficult for people to access affordable health care. These executive actions were met with praise from his supporters, who saw them as bold moves to reduce government overreach and unleash the power of the free market. Critics, however, condemned them as reckless and irresponsible, arguing that they would harm the environment, undermine public health, and exacerbate economic inequality. Section 6. Justice Department Shakeup, Firings and Resignations. The Justice Department has long been viewed as an independent institution, shielded from political interference. However, under the Trump administration, the walls separating justice from politics have crumbled. In a move that sent shockwaves through Washington, Trump fired several high-ranking Justice Department officials who had been involved in investigations into his administration. These firings were widely seen as an attempt to obstruct justice and shield himself from accountability. The firings triggered a wave of resignations from career prosecutors and FBI agents who were appalled by the politicization of the Justice Department. They argued that Trump's actions were undermining the rule of law and eroding public trust in the justice system. These events have raised serious concerns about the future of American democracy. The Justice Department is supposed to be an impartial arbiter of justice, not a tool to be wielded by the president for personal gain. Trump's actions have shaken the very foundations of this vital institution. Section 7. Politicizing Tragedy, a Plane Crash and Public Perception. In the wake of a tragic plane crash near Reagan National Airport, which claimed the lives of dozens of innocent people, Trump faced criticism for his handling of the situation. Instead of offering condolences and expressing unity, he used the tragedy as an opportunity to score political points. Before the cause of the crash had been determined, Trump immediately blamed it on his political opponents, accusing them of incompetence and negligence. He used the tragedy to push for his own agenda, calling for increased security measures and infrastructure spending. This politicization of a national tragedy was met with outrage from both sides of the aisle. Critics accused him of exploiting the deaths of innocent people for political gain. They argued that his actions were deeply inappropriate and disrespectful to the victims and their families. The incident highlighted Trump's penchant for turning any situation, no matter how grave, to his advantage. It also revealed his willingness to exploit people's pain and fear to advance his own political agenda. Section 8. The Trump Paradox: Economic Anxiety versus Moral Concerns. The Trump presidency has been marked by a stark paradox. He was elected by voters who were deeply concerned about the economy and their own financial well-being. Yet, he has consistently prioritized policies that appeal to his base, but do little to address the economic anxieties of the average American. While Trump's supporters applaud his tough stance on immigration, his trade wars and deregulation efforts have had mixed results at best. Some industries have benefited while others have suffered. The overall impact on the economy remains uncertain. Meanwhile, Trump's attacks on democratic institutions, his divisive rhetoric, and his disregard for ethical norms have alienated many Americans who were initially drawn to his populist message. They are increasingly troubled by his behavior and his policies, which they see as detrimental to the country. This disconnect between Trump's economic promises and his actions has created a deep sense of disillusionment among many Americans. They are left wondering if he is truly looking out for their interests or simply pursuing his own agenda. Section 9. America in 2025. A nation divided, uncertain of its future. As America navigates the uncharted waters of the Trump era, the nation finds itself deeply divided. The political landscape is polarized, with each side retreating further into its own echo chamber. Trump's supporters remain fiercely loyal, praising his leadership and embracing his America First agenda. They see him as a strong leader who is not afraid to challenge the status quo and fight for what he believes in. His detractors, however, view him as a threat to American democracy. They are alarmed by his authoritarian tendencies, his disregard for the rule of law, and his divisive rhetoric. They fear that he is eroding the very fabric of American society. As the Trump presidency enters its second term, America faces a crossroads. The path ahead is uncertain, fraught with challenges and dangers. The choices made in the coming years will determine the fate of the nation for generations to come.